Yeah, so the Startup Learning Center is kind of where all these classes are going. They're going in, of course, the Honor Society. If you haven't joined, you really should. Nikki, I think you're building a great community over here. I
Thank
definitely
you.
always, anytime you ask, I don't like, I'm like, okay, let me find a little window in the schedule. If The Startup Learning Center is also another way, another avenue you guys can reach me. It got to the point where I was just getting so many messages and the same questions over and over again, where I was just like, if you're not in the Honor Society, information is free, but at some point you're gonna have to pay for it. If you don't get it when it's free, you're probably gonna end up paying for it later. So um, that's where I'm putting all the classes in as well. So if you don't get it here, you can also go over to the startuplearningcenter.com, and that's where you can also get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I
And
also do, I'm sorry, go
tell us
ahead.
what's been going on since we've last chatted.
Do you see the change?
She think, don't she look younger to you? She looked younger to
Oh
me.
my gosh. Hair up, no makeup, boxes behind me. What is going? Oh my gosh! So we got an opportunity to open up a little shop here in Tyson's Corner, which is the biggest mall in the area, and also one of the biggest, not the biggest, one of the biggest malls in the nation, which has propelled Alejandro's brand to a different level. But with it has it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot with staffing. It's a lot with sales. It's a lot with learning retail. It's a lot with learning payroll. Um, Going into retail is just a whole different world. But yeah, that's kind of where we're been right now. I mean, like if you took the press class, um, I don't know when it was, Nikki, to be honest with you. But if you took the press class, pretty much we've been applying the same principles to get pretty much the opening, it was covered by a whole bunch of press. I used the same principles that I taught you guys to pretty much. Alejandro's been all over the news. I used to joke on Telemundo, and I was like, oh man, the only one he hasn't been on is Telemundo. I'm joking on Univision now because that is pretty much the only thing he hasn't been on. So, our play is now we're gunning for that national feature because I feel like um, the regional press is there to kind of propel us into that national. So we're gunning for them pretty hard. I don't know when it's going to happen, but you know, I'm putting it out there.
That's right. That's right. Claim
Yeah.
it. Okay, so let's get into what we're going to talk about tonight. So, what are we talking about tonight?
Get your pricing right.
Period.
Get your prices right. Oh my gosh. So we are still doing markets every single weekend. And if I can't tell you the amount of vendors I walk by and I'm like, I know that's not priced right. Because you know how you by this time, like you can kind of tell what wax people use just by like looking at it or like kind of guess it's okay. It might be this and it might be this.
Right.
Um, and I'm just like, okay, you're not pricing your stuff right. So for let me go into regular pricing and then we'll talk wholesale. And then after that, we'll talk corporate gifting because they're completely different. And you have to have your retail or your MSRP pricing um, on point. Otherwise, your wholesale and your corporate gifting pricing is not going to be on point and you're not going to make any money. So,
Period.
yeah, you're really not. We just opened up wholesale pricing, and I am so glad that I stuck to what I did for MSRP because, I mean, sheesh, some of these like platforms like Fair takes
Yeah.
25%. So if you are doing 50% off of your retail, after the fees, you're not making that much money. Yeah, it is. And I don't see people building in like that like cushion either.
Yeah.
So inflation has what was it back in over the summer, by the end of the summer, I believe it's August, inflation had already rose by 8%. So you should have already raised your prices by at least 10% because inflation is already getting higher
Mhm.
you know so we did 10% for everything and raised and then we did it in phases so it wouldn't hit our customers. So you can do raising your prices in different ways. We did it in phases because we were trying to like get those sales too, kind of like, okay, we're raising prices on the glass, you need to purchase by this date because we're going to raise the price after this. And that kind of incentivized people to buy in bulk too. So we got pretty decent sales when we were raising prices. Um, but for your retail prices, you have to know your raw cost of goods. I'll get on Facebook sometimes and I'll look at like the candle groups, and the most, I'm sorry, but the dumbest question you can ever ask, like there's no other way to say it. Like the dumbest question you can ask is, do you think this candle is okay at $10? Like, why are you asking that? Know your cost of goods. Like, know your cost of goods. You need to know how much, regardless of what you sell. And I'm going to take candles because that's what I work with literally every single day, right? So if you are making a candle, how much does that glass cost? Exactly, including the shipping to get to you, because we know shipping is going sky high with every supplier. Even with SLC supplies, we're struggling to keep shipping down. Um, and it's only going to get worse with the holiday season, like
Yeah.
USPS already announced that, they're going to increase.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know what individual thing costs down to the pennies. It just, it blows my mind when I ask, when people ask me, and then I'm like, well, how much does it cost? Well, I think it's around this. And it's like, you need to have spreadsheets. Um, and I don't have it up right now, but I have a spreadsheet for every single candle, every single product, because, like the fragrance oil is going to vary in price.
Yeah.
And then I also keep track of the shipping, and I've noticed shipping is lower certain months, higher different months. Um, and no, not plus tax, Nini. You should not be paying tax. You should not be paying tax. There is no tax business to business, but you need to have that tax stuff. You're tax exempt in. So
And
there
then
should
we also did a class on that too, Patricia. If you guys
right,
go back to the Honor Society, there's so much information in there. She
yeah,
showed you guys how to get tax exempt.
you're right. So you should not be paying any tax. Um, so I'm not gonna cover the tax thing, but you should not be paying any tax in any of your products. Um, so let me see. Let me pull up my notes really quick. All right. So you need to know exactly how much each thing costs down to the penny, and then you need to think ahead and be like, okay, in 5 years, how many employees do we foresee having? How many candles can they make in one shift? And that's going to come down to kind of you knowing your product. For example, I know Alejandro and I, and that's two people, can crank out 400 candles in about 6 hours if we include the labeling. So that's pretty much somebody's shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I broke that down, and um, I broke that down and pretty much came up with like our labor. And then after you put in your labor, you still need to build in your pretty much what you want to pay yourself to run the company. So you can either include it in labor, or you can include it as like, okay, you take, I don't know, you can make $20, whatever it is that you want to pay yourself, $20 an hour, $40 an hour, whatever it is. Build that into your pricing, because you want to get to a point where you can go away, for 2 3 days or a week or whatever, right? And the business continue, but the product is still making you money, so you can afford to pay yourself, so you can afford to take time off. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people are not considering growing their business to that point, um, when they're doing their pricing.
Mm-hmm. And you know
um,
what else I wanted to add to that? That
yeah.
you know how you said you want to take time off? You
Hmm.
want to make sure that the price that you want to pay yourself is something you want to pay somebody else, because they're going to take over that, right?
Right, right. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like and one of the things that I can't remember who said it, but I was listening to some podcast when I was driving, and one of the best pieces of advice I heard is, when you find good people, you need to pay them more than you pay yourself.
Mm-hmm.
At least as you're growing, because you want to make sure that they stay with you and they grow with you. And sometimes that means taking less of a cut from the business. I mean, Small Love is still not at the point where we're paying ourselves. We are still doing all of this for free right now, because we're
Mm-hmm.
investing back into the business, the people, like everything gets reinvested right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I get the question all the time. Alejandro gets it all the time. It's like, how are you guys growing? And it's like, we're not paying ourselves. And that's a whole other conversation, because if you pay yourself too early, you're really doing a hustle, not building a brand. So that's a decision that you have to make. Are you doing a hustle, or are you building a brand? If you're building a brand, you're going to have to be patient in terms of when you pay yourself. So that's kind of, I forgot what I was talking about. That's kind of the whole, the labor. I'm sorry. I was on the labor piece. Sorry. Um, okay. So you got the labor, what you want to pay yourself. You have to build an insurance. And a lot of people forget that you need insurance for your products, insurance for like liability when you're at markets, or when, for example, we had to get a whole um, insurance thing when we opened Tyson's. You have to get workers' comp eventually when you hire people. And then there are other different types of insurance, like there's five, there are different ones depending on where you go. Whether you go into a space that requires like fire insurance, flood insurance, you're going to have to build all that in. So you got to do your best if you don't have employees yet. For example, I didn't know what workers' comp costs, so I kind of Googled and put together stuff to try to estimate. So I wasn't too far off, so we don't have to raise prices again. Um, but that's something that you do have to consider. Like, if do you want employees making your products? Do you want employees selling your products? If so, you're gonna have to get workers' comp. There is no way around it, because if somebody gets hurt under your business, they can literally wipe your business out by taking you to court. So just, you should take that as seriously as, like, somebody putting their house on fire. So let me see. Go back to my notes. Okay. In your pricing, if you are not charging a handling fee, and when I mean a handling fee is, you should build in the cost of the box if you are shipping your goods out, the bubble wrap, the tissue paper, the crinkle paper. A lot of us recycle peanuts, so I never charge people for peanuts, but like, I will build in the shipping supply cost into a handling fee. And that is, we increase it over the summer because we do the insulated thing.
Yeah.
And then we decrease it when we don't. So we try to be really fair in what we charge people and not overcharge them. So you have to be building in. Otherwise, those costs are coming out of your, like, the price of the candle. So you're not really making what you think you're making at the end of the day. And then you also have to be, I don't know, everybody wants to be luxury, but like, luxury is branding. Luxury is not, let me pay $10 for this fancy crinkle paper because it's luxury labeled. That's a whole conversation.
Right. That's a whole different conversation, and that's a long one.
Yeah. So just be conscious of what you're buying, and make sure you're building that in. And when you change, your crinkle paper, let's say you want to change it to like blue, or I mean, not blue, green and red for the holidays, make sure that you're pricing that, because usually the colored ones are higher, the craft one is cheaper. So make sure that you're pricing that into your products. And you should always try to aim for the one that's the highest instead of the lowest, because you don't want to keep fluctuating prices up and down.
I go for the lowest because I use craft, because craft is tan is the color. So I'm like, it's the cheapest and it's the color. So I'll just keep the craft paper. Yeah.
Yeah, we do craft too.
Yeah.
There's no need for anything else.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we got the handling fee, insurance. All right, so this is your overhead too. So you have to, depending on where you want to take your business, and this is what I did. I went on loopnet.com.
On what? Say it again.
Loopnet.com.
LUKE?
LOO, let me make sure. LOOPNET.com.
Okay.
And I went on loopnet.com, and this is going to be something that varies from your location. Yeah, loopnet.com. And that's pretty much a website where you can find commercial or retail space in your area. So if that is where you want to take your business, if you want to go retail, search retail. If you want to go, industrial, you're going to have to go, warehouse. So I went and looked up how much does a warehouse cost in this area. And then I kind of upped it just a little bit for inflation because I'm like, I don't know when we're going to get into a warehouse. Right now, we're kind of in a like a storage, I don't know, it's like a production room pretty much.
We're in a space.
We're in a space, yeah, but it's not a warehouse. So we want to get into a warehouse at some point. So I went in there and I looked, and warehouses in this area are crazy expensive, but you're going to have to build that into your pricing, if that's where you want to take your business. So it's all about trying to think ahead and doing the best that you can with the information that you have, but you're going to have to consider that inflation. Inflation is always 3%, usually, not this year. Usually it's always 3%. So let's say you want to get into a warehouse in 5 years, you're going to have to do about 15% over whatever you get quoted for a warehouse. And you can see the prices right on LoopNet. So you don't have to like contact anybody or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your overhead. And on top of that, you're going to have to project like utilities, like utility costs, phone. We just got a company phone, internet, almost like you're projecting for like a house, but you got to do it for a warehouse, or what you think you want to grow into. And when you do that, remember that when you do a warehouse, you're going to have to think, okay, 30 days, how many candles can we crank out over 30 days? You're going to have to do the math, blah, 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 so that you know exactly how much does it cost to make one candle in that warehouse. So let me know if there are questions on that, because that's a lot of math, but I can break it down.
All right. So if you have any questions, you guys put it. Sorry, if you guys have any questions, just put it in the chat, and Patricia, I'll put it on the screen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got that. So then you get to the cost of the candle, right? So let's say it costs, I don't know, $7 to make a candle. That's including labor. That's including your labels. That's including I don't know, other fancy shit you want to throw on there. Whatever it is. Like, I'm so tired. So I apologize for the French. I'm so tired. If you put like foil, you got to calculate the foil. Like you have to make sure that you are always accounting for every little thing that you use. And that is why spreadsheets are so, whatever, I don't care what you use, but you have to know, okay, this foil costs X amount to put on a candle, or this crinkle paper or this box that I'm going to put in, it costs me this much, or whatever it is. But you have to know everything that is going into that price of that candle, and then you do times 4 or a little bit more. And so we donate to charity, but that is built into the pricing. That is not, that's not coming out of the, what do you call it? That's built in, is what I'm trying to say. So we build in $1 for every candle. So we kind of know, okay, this is kind of how much we're going to donate this month, based on like the amount of candles we sold. So we also do that. So if you have some philanthropic thing, you need to build that in. If you do 5% of your profits, okay, well, you have to break that down into what does that go into each candle. None of the big brands donate out of the goodness of their heart.
Kindness of their heart.
Everything is built in. At the Giant, where they're like, hey, would you like to donate to like St. Jude's or whatever?
Yeah.
No, because all you're doing is, all that you're doing is letting them, giving them money to make their tax bill lower. That's all you're doing. So that is something that, I learned very quickly, that I was like, oh, I'm not donating. No, because I want my tax bill to be lower. I don't want your corporate tax bill to be lower.
Right. That don't have anything to do with me.
I don't get a receipt where I can, lower my tax bill, but you do.
Right, right.
And I just literally gave you money so you could pay less taxes. That is some bullshit. So no. Target, no. Walmart, no. They never get my money. Let me see.
And they sure do pull on our heartstrings. Don't you want to donate to the children's hospital?
They pull really hard. Okay, so then you have to do times 4 after that. All right. So keep in mind, how big do you want to grow the company? You have to make projected kind of estimates, but also build in inflation. And on average, it's not going to be, we might hit something else besides COVID because, COVID threw inflation off the rails, but it's usually around 3%. But if you have not increased your pricing and analyzed your pricing, you need to do that as quickly as you can, because now is the time to increase your pricing if it is not right, because there is an excuse. If you do it when kind of inflation settles, people are going to start to question you. Why didn't you raise your price? They're going to be like, why didn't you raise your prices then? Because people are expecting it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, you go and do it times 4. It should always be times 4, because then you can run sales, you can run promotions, and you're still making at least times 3 if you don't
Right.
do, if you do 25%, and you should never run a sale without there being a strategy behind it. But that's another conversation too. So never run a sale just to run a sale. Run a sale for a specific purpose. What is what is the outcome of what you're trying to achieve? And then will a sale get you there, or will a promotion get you there? But if your pricing is not on point, you don't have the margins to do that. you know so I'm going to go into wholesale and then corporate gifting, but I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions on that so far, on MSRP retail pricing.
Does anybody have any questions? You guys put them in the chat. When Patricia's gone, let me tell you, she's so busy, I can barely get her. So if you have any questions, you're not going to be able to DM her and ask her any, you know what I'm saying? Or get it anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't really check the inbox, to be honest with you. I don't. I just don't have the time. I just busy. And I don't mean to sound pretentious. It's just a lot, Um, having a sale is where I struggle. But is your pricing on, is your pricing times 4? Because if it is, then it shouldn't be a point where you struggle. Like, usually a sale or a promotion is for a purpose. When we do it, it's because we want to grow our email list. Like, we're always trying
Yeah.
to grow our email
Yeah.
list, you know, or we're trying to make sure our current customers bring in other customers. That's why we run sales. There's always a purpose, or maybe we're trying to collect SMS. We'll be like, it's SMS specific. Um, Give us your number. Uh, there's always a purpose behind a sale. Um, okay, so if there are no questions on that, I'm going to go over to wholesale. And
Mm-hmm.
this is something that we're in conversations with a pretty big, and I can't say, but we're in conversations with a pretty big brand. But what profit margin should we aim for when planning our pricing? 75%. That's times 4. 75%, because you're not going to have that. Keep in mind that when it's just you, you're going to have that 75% margins. You're not going to have it the more people you bring on. But you want to, what am I trying to say? You want to make sure that you project for it. For example, we didn't know we grew to 10 people at one point on payroll. We hadn't projected that fast. And so our margins went down to the 60s. They're back up because we had some people leave. But that margin is going to fluctuate. You want to always be as close to 75% as you can. That is a profitable business, and you want to be profitable. Even when I have one, I don't really buy stuff. Makes me not want to do them, which is probably stupid. I want salsa. You want I want salsa to get more customers.
I want sales
Oh,
to get more customers. I think I be trying to decipher what people are saying, but I think it's sales.
okay. So that is never a reason to run sales. You never want to run a sale to get sales, if that makes sense. You always want to run a sale to get emails, to get SMS, to reward your VIP customers, but you never, never, never want to run sales to get sales, because then you're going to be known as a discount brand,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, and honestly, like being at markets, Nikki, like you got to be at markets. Like that's really where you meet you get so much feedback on your products. You start to see the trends on what's selling,
Mm.
and then you kind of have to do more of that, right? And then you also get feedback on what people want, so you can get ahead of the trend if you start hearing the same thing over and over again, so you get so much valuable information from just being in markets. And that's one of the top reasons we're not stopping them anytime soon, because we kind of are able to get either ahead of the trend, or we can beat our competition out because we kind of know what people want. And right now there's like a whole big like, oh, you're so basic if you like pumpkin spice, with I think it's some bullshit, because I love pumpkin spice,
We know.
I love everything pumpkin spice, and there's a large market of that. And then people are moving away from pumpkin spice, but hey, we still got you. So
Mm-hmm.
being at markets, Marnik, is just, I can't say how valuable that is.
So get it together, Martinique, and get to the markets, girl.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's Martinique's birthday.
you guys are birthday buddies? That's so
Yes.
cool. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That's really cool. Is getting rid of seasonal inventory valid reason to the reduced price? We don't. And I know Jasmine, we don't. Um, so believe it or not, we have people asking for pumpkin spice in like May, July. So we never run a sale to get rid of inventory that we have left over. We just keep putting it out at the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
price, and people still buy it. Um, so
Oh,
we
wait.
never run a sale. The only time you will see a sale that is very deep. So we run a 50% sale every January.
You do 50?
Hold on, let me explain. Yes,
I was like, whoa.
we do 50. So what we do, because we're so market heavy, what we do is all year we are collecting inventory that maybe like has the wrong label, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
got a little dented, but it doesn't affect the burn. It's just like cosmetic issue.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe there was some melting and it just doesn't look right, or it got discolored. So we literally have a pile. I'm like, it's like growing a pile of candles that we cannot sell full price.
Yeah.
So every January, because the sales dip in January, so you have to be creative on how you can get more sales then. Every January we run a 50% sale, and last year we got cleaned out in like 30 minutes. Like
Yeah.
everything is snapped, because we are not known for sales. We do
Mm-hmm.
not run sales. And so when we were like 50%, people were like snapping them up. So that's kind of how we get rid of things that we can't really sell for price. But we still have maybe like a dozen candles from the summer collection that we still put out, and people
Yeah.
still pay full price. We don't discount. They will still pay the full price. How do you add tax into your products? What do you mean? Because you should be collecting tax from your customers. So what do you mean? How do you add tax? Like how do you add like federal tax, or you mean sales tax?
Jasmine says she's gonna switch that price.
Yeah, we don't discount seasonal. We don't run like end of fall. We don't. We still put it out. We put it out, people buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then we also have another strategy that we do. So our pumpkin candle, we're gonna change the name to pecan waffles. And then people don't know it's a pumpkin candle. I mean, if they read like the ingredients, they'll know that pumpkin is one of the notes, but like change the label, put a new name on it that's not seasonal.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. You got to do a better job of hiding them.
That Oh, so, okay. So we still got the tax. Oh, sales tax. Sales tax.
Yeah, sales tax, you don't build sales tax into your product because you're collecting the sales tax from the customer. So
Mm-hmm.
if your candle is, $28, 6%, whatever 6% tax is, you should be collecting it from them. So you literally collect and you turn around and you pay the state every month.
And
Um,
Patricia said, "Don't keep that sales tax."
you better pay that sales tax. Like, you do not want those fines. They are crazy, depending on the state. And you have to be keeping track of who you have to pay sales tax. I think Shopify has a feature they rolled out just recently. But before that, you can use TaxJar, um, because sales tax goes on the number of orders or sales that you've had in that state, or if you hit a certain number of sales, like numerically. So, and it varies state by state. So it's not, generic. I can't be like, when you hit 100 orders in DC, you got to pay sales tax. It really varies, very state by state. It's very specific. Um, but you have to keep the sales tax separate. Like, we have a tax account that goes into, that literally gets taken out every month, like automatic. Like, we don't keep that. Like, it goes to the state. Yeah. Um, yeah,
Oh, she just said that. You just said that.
we automate sales tax. We use TaxJar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can. I can't remember. We have 3 states on TaxJar. I can't remember what the cheapest option is, but ours has grown. But I recommend TaxJar. I don't have to think about it. They just send me a receipt. Here, your Maryland sales tax is paid. Virginia sales tax is paid. Okay. So then, all right. So wholesale. So this is something that I really had to, do a lot of research, and I asked a lot of questions of some of my contacts, because when you deal with the 1%, they do things really differently, versus when you, like, I don't know, just a 50%. You always think, okay, wholesale is 50%, right?
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
is all that you hear. That's all you hear. And so in my head, I was like, okay, we have not opened up wholesale because we're very strategic with things that we do. And we have been pushing direct to consumer very heavily, and that's still our focus. Um, but with all this press attention that we have been getting, the amount of requests for wholesale has grown. So I was like, well, let me vet, let me start seeing if some of these are good partnerships. And that is the only reason why. And honestly, the only thing that pushed me was getting an email from a big a big store, a big brand, and I didn't know what to tell them. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole. I explored. I spoke to a bunch of people that used to be my clients. So, like Fortune 500 people. And the one thing that kept coming back was wholesale does not have to be 50%. That blew my mind. I was like, why? In every Facebook group, in everything social media, it's like 50%, 50%. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, like this myth that wholesale has to be 50% is truly a myth. Like, it does not have to be. Um, I've heard anywhere from 25 up to 50. So I started, I talk a lot. Well, I don't talk a lot. I ask a lot of questions. Um, and I try to ask the questions from people I know that have done it, not and have been successful, not people that have done it and then close up shop and then trying to teach a class. Because then I'm like, okay, well, why don't you keep that? If you were truly successful, you would still have that business.
Patricia came for the girls.
There's just too many experts out here, and I'm like, okay. Um, so we settled on, and I feel like the sweet spot for wholesale, like when you do 25%, you really have to be 25 to 30%. You really have to be like, I don't know, you're not really competitive. Like they really want, there has to be like a relationship there for them to really accept that price.
Okay.
Because, like as a brand, you can run a 25% sale, like if
And
you're
then they could just wait for the sale.
just wait for the sale. So you're not really competitive. Um, we went with 40% wholesale because I feel like that's the sweet spot. You're not getting the 50% because nobody gets 50% with our brand. And the reason for that is because let's say you order 8,000 candles, right? And then our overhead all of a sudden goes up. We have that cushion of 10% to make sure that we are still able to pay all the bills, because
Mm-hmm.
we just gave you a 40% discount. So that I feel like that right there is the sweet spot. You're still competitive, um, but you're not giving anyone the corporate price either. So you don't have to do 40%. You can do 50%, but I'm telling you, if you do 50%, you're not making 50%. You're making less than that. Um,
Mm.
because of, let's say somebody orders 8,000 candles, you're gonna have to bring people on, and you're gonna have to bring people on fast. So
Mm-hmm.
I never recommend that. I honestly think 40% is the sweet spot. Because then you start getting requests for corporate, or like, oh, I want this, and this has no customization. Okay, this is with absolutely no customization. If you want custom, you're gonna have to pay me 20%.
Mm.
I mean, like, you only get 20% off because there's so much work involved
Yes.
that it's not worth it to give you this. You truly want these candles with the custom whatever, fine. But of course, there are contracts that you can't resell it, all of that. Don't ever do a wholesale thing without a damn contract, or a corporate gift or whatever. Um, because people
Contracts and NDAs all the time.
all the
Patricia
time,
done told us this a
all
million times.
yes, all the damn time, because people can order from you and take your label off and then sell it as their own, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But if you have
Mm-hmm.
the contract, you can come after them. So, so that's wholesale. I recommend 40%. Again, do your research and then look at your margins. Can you do 50? Okay. Maybe your pricing is better than ours. I don't know. Maybe you did times five. Because if you do times five from your what the candle costs to make, then yeah, maybe you could do 50%. So it really depends. We just did
But do
times
you
four.
want to do 50%?
You want to do 50%.
Yeah.
So, will your customers pay the times five price? That's another thing to consider. When you go too high, you're really getting into a different customer base. And are you really targeting your marketing to that customer? Right. So, um, yeah, do you want to do 50%? So we recommend 40. And then for corporate gifting, we do 30%, because at 40%, a wholesaler is going to turn around and sell that. As a corporate gifter, you're turning around and gifting that. So you only get 30% off. So we turned down a $1,200 order because they came to us and they were like, well, our budget is $10 a candle. Okay, well, you can purchase these 2-ounce candles. um, yeah, no. They wanted the glass candle that we sell for 28 for $10, and I was like,
Whoa.
it's my ass. I don't need your little $1,200.
Not that bad.
Nah, nah, not that bad. Because a lot of these people think that, I don't know. To me, getting into a store is not a big deal. It doesn't stroke my ego. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when people are like, oh, look how many stores I have. And I was like, yeah, but they took how much? Like, you're not really getting what your candle is worth. So
Right.
for me,
Right.
it's more of a brand play more than like an ego stroke thing. So
Mm.
know that corporate gifting should be completely separate from your wholesale price, and it should not all be 50%. I don't think there should be 50%, period. Um, but if you're turning around and gifting it, you get 30%. We don't run 30% sales.
Mhm.
So you're getting a really good deal. Um, and then if they want, like I said, customization, you're only getting 20% off. And we have minimums that you have to meet, so that
Mm.
not just anybody from the street can come and be like, I want 10 candles and then I want them at the corporate gifting price. And it's like, okay, well, pay full price, because we don't have that.
Right.
Um, so you have to have minimums in order to vet the people, to weed out the people that just want the deal, and don't really want to pay what you're worth.
That's right. That's right.
That's kind of where we're at, 20% if you want custom. And we don't do white label, so I can't talk about white label. That's another conversation.
Yeah.
Not do white label at all.
And I was in Patricia's inbox like, do you think I should? I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to have anything to do with the white label at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, that's me. And there's nothing wrong, but if you're gonna target your brand to be white label, then you're not really building a brand. You're building everybody else's brand.
Right. You're building wholesale for other people.
Yeah. And then, well, white label should not be wholesale price either. White
Hmm.
label is more, I think it's about 25% that you only knock off. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's a different conversation. And like, I haven't explored it too well because I'm not going to say never, but we are not
Not right there now,
about it
right?
yet. No.
Yeah.
So corporate gifting, 30% and with absolutely no customization, wholesale 40%. And you'd be surprised, like when I told this big brand that I was like, look, this is 40% and there's no custom. You want custom, it's gonna cost more.
Hmm.
Um, and they were like, no, 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 it's fine. So they were very accepting of it. They didn't even question if it like why we didn't do 50%.
Yeah.
Um, they are little like so we opened up on Fair. They're like little boutiques, little like mom and pop shops that are like, oh, but you don't do 50. It's like, well, I don't want to be in your store anyway because you're too little. And I really don't mean to like I don't mean to put them down because like we're all hard workers, but like we're aiming for those. If I could say
Patricia said, I don't want to be in your store anyway.
don't, I don't, so I don't. Um, if I could say that the name of the people that we're in talks with, then you would understand that what we're gunning for, you know, we're not gunning for little mom and pop shops. Like they're
Yeah.
cute and all, and it's fine if that's how you want to start. But like we were strategic in holding out wholesale for a reason because now
Yeah.
we have leverage with these big brands that they're like, oh, like let's talk. And it's like, yeah, but we have some power here because
Yeah.
we haven't been wholesale, we have been very direct to consumer. So our email list, we have over 6,000 people on our email list now. That's what they're looking for. And they're like, oh, so now you're bringing us people,
Right.
so you have power in how you build your foundation. So
Right. And you didn't
nothing
water
wrong
down the
with mom and
brand.
pop. Yeah, nothing wrong with mom and pop, but there is a reason why we held out.
Hmm.
So um,
So we got a question up on the screen from Yazzie Faye.
is sales tax separate than paying the state to keep your business active for your state? Right. So keeping your business active is just paying that yearly fee. Sales tax is what you pay monthly from what you collect. So if you sell 10 candles, you got to collect sales tax on those 10 candles, turn around and give it to the state. Um, that yearly fee, I think you're in Jersey, yeah, yearly fee just goes to the state.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, when an individual purchases from you in bulk, is that considered wholesale? Brides purchasing candles to give as gifts to their bride? Nope, that is not considered wholesale. That's not considered corporate gifting. That is considered event candles for us, and we have tiers. And the highest that they get is still 25%. So
Hmm.
we do, and we have a minimum of 50. So I don't want to hear that you want to order 10 candles and you want this, you
The
want,
highest tier
yeah, no.
discount.
So we have tiers. Um, we've done a few of them. A lot of people don't want to spend that much. And if you want to be cheap, but you're not getting our candles for that.
That's right. That's right.
You got to really believe in your product because the money might be, we were tempted by the $1,200, but it's like at $10 a candle, we're not making anything on it after we pay everybody. After, like, no, no.
Like, and what would be the point of doing that if you didn't, if at least you could profit?
We get no emails. Like, we get nothing.
Right. Right.
Y'all can kiss my ass. No. Um, I mean, the way they came
Y'all getting
at
a spicy Patricia today. Y'all getting spicy. You getting the Latina today. Oh.
it, yeah. What if you're collaborating with someone and it has that you're the manufacturer? Where would that fall? They are selling them. So then you're white labeling. What if you're collaborating with someone and it has that you're the man? If you're the manufacturer, then you're a white labeler. You're a white label. Because that's not really a collab.
Mm.
Yeah. When you make a product but customize the label to the company who's purchasing, that's white label unless your website is on it. If your label and I mean if you're so this is what we demand in our contracts. Our website has to be on it and our label has to be on it. Let's say we are not let's say we're collaborating with the county right now. So we close the contract to be um, to provide candles to the county, like exclusively, and they want to make their own label, which we were like, that's fine. It has to have our logo, it has to have our website. Doesn't matter where, as long as it's clearly visible and the customer can read it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if they're keeping that off, you're a white labeler. You're a white label. Um,
Nikki is so crazy. She said she thought white labels meant it's just white label.
no, white label just means that they can slap their own label and sell it under their brand as theirs, as if they made it. So, like, let me give you an example. Bath and Body Works white labels everything. Like, there are factories out in Kentucky and West Virginia making their candles, but they buy them white label. So they throw their label on it and then they sell it in the stores as if they made it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, you guys have any other questions?
I don't see anything else yet.
Okay.
Let me see. I did have one starred. Let's see. They might be going back a little bit.
How long does it take up in the process? It really varies from vendor to vendor. Um, I think Walmart took a really long time because they want a lot of documentation. I think ours for Walmart took a month.
Mm.
Michael's took a while. Candle Science they're really fast, but they're like a whole corporation over there. Trying to think. No, what is it? Wholesale Supplies Plus lets you do it online and then they approve it maybe like 3 days. So it really depends on the company. Um, but Walmart, Michaels, I was really surprised. It took a really long time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So you got to vary by vendor to vendor. Um, Amazon took a while. That was surprising, as fast as they are
Mm-hmm.
over there, you know. Everybody should have an Amazon business account. You not be paying sales tax on Amazon. Um, trying to think.
How do I get this contract? What contract?
What contract?
What contract are you talking about, Yazzie Faye? Not sure. Oh, so the tax exempts you have that on I think is it on Smell of Love, but I know you had it for the Startup Learning Center. Is the forms there still?
No, it's on SLC Supplies.
SLC Supplies.
Yeah, there's a tab on there that says become tax exempt, and then we literally linked every single state.
Yeah. She said how does she get the contract for white label?
What do you mean? Like, how do you got to make a contract?
So Betty Rose says, what is your take on selling on Amazon?
You have to increase your pricing. Amazon, I can't remember what their cut is. I'm confusing all of them because we're on Fair. We're like on another one. We haven't signed up for Amazon simply because, again, you got to be strategic, right? So we are holding out on them because we're doing something in play, and so Amazon is not a part of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I'm all about strategy. I don't do something if I look at the end goal, right? And I'm like, what is going to get me there? And what do I have to exclude in order to get there? And so if it doesn't serve that purpose, we're not going to do it.
Hmm.
Um, Amazon does not serve the purpose of where we want to go in the next year. So we're not doing it. But if you want to do a fulfillment center, you're going to have to ship your stuff over there. I just think you need to price your candles a little bit higher. Um, and you're going to, I don't know, if you want to be in competition with these big brands, for example, the brand that we're in talks, the store that we're in talks with, they value not being on Amazon, you know? And so when I see that, I'm like, okay, so my strategy has been, it kind of validates the strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't have, I really, I don't have a hard take on it. I just really think it varies. Where do you want to take your company in the next year or so? And is Amazon going to serve that purpose? Is it really just about sales? Like, if it is, then you're really built. Like, you have to ask yourself, like, and this is so like irritating at times. I'm like, are you trying to build a brand or are you trying to just make some money? Like, because don't waste my time. You're like talking about, oh, I want to, become this corporation but then you're like doing the side hustle, everything to build a side hustle, and it's just like you're not you know um so you
And
have
then if you're on Amazon, it when you're trying to build your brand, to me, I have a friend and
it
she's
takes
really big.
away
Yeah, yeah. It takes away the value of the brand to me.
it
Plus, you don't
definitely
get
takes,
the people that buy those products, they're
no,
not your customers.
no, we started at 120 people on our email list. We're at over 6,000. And honestly, between collecting at the kiosk, and then our staff does a really good job, but like really it's the markets is what has grown our email list to the amount. Like, if you eventually want to sell your company, if you want investors in your company, you're going to have to hold out on a lot of things. That may mean holding out on like selling on Amazon because you want that quick sale. Ask
Right.
yourself, do you want to build a brand or you just want some money? If you want some money, put everything on Amazon, like, you know, um, if you want to build a brand, better off holding out.
Right.
Because everybody reaches that point, and I feel like we're getting pretty close. We're gonna need some investor money to keep growing. Like, you're always gonna get to that point where it's like, okay, you're gonna need some large amount of capital to try to get to the next step. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's really a personal question. Where do you want to take your business? And honestly, you want some money? Put it on Amazon. Do you want to build a brand? Maybe hold out. So,
Right.
and like, I mean, anybody. I mean, if you guys have been, you know, hearing me talk for I don't know how long we've known each other, Nikki. Like, about building brands. I am not about the quick money. I am about like being known for turning down money. I don't care about your little $1,200. You can keep that because we don't need it that much.
Right. Right.
Mom and pop shops are really cute, but we don't really need your type of money. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like, we're really about building a brand, not the side hustle. And so, like, I know I offend some people, but I'm like, look, if you want the side hustle, like, I'm not the person to talk to because I'm gonna be
Right.
like,
Right.
like, I'm about
You're
building.
thinking too small.
Yeah, I'm like, you're thinking too very small because I'm thinking we can be like a competitor of Bath and Body Works. I'm thinking Yankee Candle. I'm thinking,
For
have you
sure.
seen it? Have you seen the what is it? I don't even know how many acres Yankee Candle, like the Yankee Candle mansion, and I'm just like, Candles built that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you just want this little quick money to take a vacation to Jamaica. Okay, that's fine. But you're not talking to me. I'm not gonna provide any value because I'm just gonna be looking like you crazy.
Right.
Because like you're taking your mindset, it's too small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's me. Yeah. I'm
And
about
that's something that everybody needs to ask themselves tonight.
right,
What are you doing with your business? Are you building a brand or are you just making money to pay your bills?
right.
Because your hustle is different.
Right. Your hustle is
Hmm.
different. Your mindset is different. And there's nothing wrong, right? If you need that hustle to pay your bills, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Um, but stop pretending they're building a brand. You know, you're not building a brand.
Get clear.
Yes. Just be clear, you're going to have to, it takes an incredible amount of money and sacrifice and sweat to build a brand. I cannot even, if I told you the amount of money that we have invested in Smell Love Candles to grow to where we are, you would be like, what in the world,
Right,
Um,
right.
and we are still not paying ourselves because, we want to keep our people. We want to increase pay at some point, Um, it's just a lot, and you have to consider, okay, where are we taking this? How can we grow? And I think paying yourself too early when you're building a brand is also a mistake. But it has to be built into your pricing because you eventually want to pay yourself, you know.
Right, right, right.
So, um,
Let me see. We got one question here.
as Etsy, Shopify, Wix platforms, good platforms, creating your own website, it's better to grow your business. I don't support anything but Shopify. And the reason I do that is because Etsy customers are not your customers. They are Etsy's. They belong to Etsy. Wix, I don't think it has good integrations. Um, Honestly, the best e-commerce platform to grow your business is Shopify. And I swear they need to start like sponsoring me or something, But
I'm telling you, cut the check.
I'm serious. And the only reason, I mean, right now, right? There could be a competitor that comes around. But for right now, if you are truly about building a brand, you need to be on Shopify. And the reason I say that is because they have the best integrations with Klaviyo, with POS systems. You should not be using Square Markets. Shopify is truly, truly the way to build a brand online. Um, I don't recommend anything else, and especially Etsy. Etsy, you don't own your customers. Again, ask yourself. It comes down to: do you want to build a side hustle, or do you want to build a brand? If you're
Hmm.
trying to build a brand, go with Shopify. If you want that quick sale, go to Etsy. You know, like I cannot tell you, Nikki, the value that our email list has now. Like we are,
Right.
we're catching the attention of these bigger fish, and they're like looking at our email list, and it's like, oh, you're not this little candle brand, and it's like, nah, we're not little. You might think we're little, you know,
Right, because you haven't heard of us.
right? But our email list is substantial. It's paying for itself now,
Yeah.
like I don't think people are not understanding the value of really holding out on, making that quick sale. Like it's really hard because there are days. I mean, we have large overhead. I think our overhead is 20,000 a month. No,
Hmm.
our overhead. I'm sorry, our overhead is 30 grand a month right now. Um, so when you have that huge, insane amount of overhead, and you
You
have
gotta make sure that work is coming in.
right, like when you have bills that pile up to 30 grand a month, like, and you have a bad day, and you're like, oh my god, like I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you it's not tempting. It is. But you have to, look at your end goal. What is it that you're trying to do? And be honest with yourself, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
How do you go about working to pay yourself into the pricing? What do you want to make? What do you want to make? You know? And that is a very real question. What do you want to make? Um, I make six figures in my 9 to 5. Alejandro cannot support that until we reach a certain amount of sales consistently every single year. So we built in my salary, we built in Reggie's salary, what he wants to make, which is not far from what he currently makes.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
we built in my salary with inflation. So what do you want to make? It's not, I really can't answer that because if you want to make six figures, then build the six figure, salary into your pricing. You have to do that.
Again, thank you so much, Patricia,
You're welcome.
and drive safely. Safe
All
travels. Good
right, bye, guys.
night, y'all.